Now, what do you make of the Prime Minister betting £1,000 on the Rwanda plan being up and running before the next election? 0207 862 2222. He was being interviewed by Piers Morgan, who makes the bet that Rishi Sunak won't get anyone on a plane to Rwanda before we go to the polls. Just watch the chemistry here.
I'll bet you £1,000 to a refugee charity you don't get anybody on those planes before the election. Will you take that bet?
Well, I want to get the people on the planes, right? Of course I want to get the people on the planes.
£1,000.
Right, I want to get the people on the plane.
So I don't know whether he's suckered into the handshake or whether he's properly taking the bet, but there we go. That's what happened. The Rwanda bill, which could see refugees put on planes to Rwanda, is currently making its way through the House of Lords. But what about that betting, Albi? Mistake?
Can you call that a bet? I mean, I was expecting to hear him say, yes, I agree to that bet. I bet you £1,000, Piers, it will get people on the planes. What he said was, I want to get the people on the planes. Piers asked him the question again. He answered the question, I want to get the people on the planes, and, shook his hand.
Because I can see the argument there, Emily, that he's basically, people instinctively shake a hand that's offered.
Oh, I just thought this was vile. I just thought it was vile, distasteful, gross. How can you possibly accept, and that's just Piers Morgan, how can you possibly accept a £1,000 bet on the outcome of poor people who, these are human beings and, who are risking life and limb, literally, in some cases, to swim across the channel to get here. Now, we can debate the rights and wrongs of the Rwanda policy in a moment, Albi, but I just thought it was horrendous. And I'm surprised, actually, at Sunak. He was obviously bounced into it. I'm surprised at him even shaking the hand. And he should have said, I would have hoped he would have said, that's outrageous,
but
Piers.
I'm not the Rwanda policy.
I'm not prepared to do that. And, like Piers Morgan, he did that only so that we are here talking about his show. He did that so he could trail it on every social media platform yesterday before his show aired about, creating controversy, because that's what Piers does. That's what Piers does.
No, it's more to do with Sunak.
It's horrific. It's horrific.
I think it's more to do with Rishi Sunak and whether he has the wrong attitude to it, because he sees it, Albi, as just political points on the board. And as Emily says, it's human lives.
Yes, it is human lives. It is human misery when people are crossing the channel and drowning in the channel. And what the Rwanda plan is intended to do is to stop that. Now, Emily, I asked you whether or not you support the Rwanda plan. I'm going to assume
no, I don't.
You do not support the Rwanda plan.
No.
So, look, if you don't support the Rwanda plan, what is your plan to stop the boat? That is what the Prime Minister is trying to do. That's what his most recent Rwanda bill was about.
His whole point, when I watched that whole interview with Piers Morgan, and what he has said in interviews, Myriad interviews, Sunak, he has said that he wants to basically use this as a deterrent. You risk life and limb to get across Europe from wherever you may come from, and you've managed to get to the UK, and it's a deterrent because you're going to be shipped effectively, put on a plane and sent to Rwanda. And then if you are granted asylum, you can stay in Rwanda. And so he thinks that that will act as a deterrent. I would suggest that if you are that terrified of being gay, for instance, in Afghanistan, if you're being persecuted because you're a minority in wherever it is in the world, and you have risked life and limb, often bringing your children, young children with you, to get to the UK, you've paid thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of pounds to people smugglers. The fact that distant thing about, oh, you might be put on a plane to Rwanda, that is not going to
it won't work argument.
No, the reason why that argument is wrong...
Well, it's very easy for you to sit there and say it's not going to work.
The reason why that argument is wrong, if I can just finish my point, Emily, is because the Albania returns deal has completely ended small boat crossings from Albania, which means that the deterrence effect of a policy where you are taken out of the United Kingdom and taken somewhere else is proven to work because of what's happened with Albania. And also, the same deal was done in Australia and it worked very well there too.
That deal was with Albania for Albanians. So if you are an Albanian, then you get sent back to your home country. This is not analogous. This Rwanda deal is not saying if you're Rwandan, you're going to get sent back to Rwanda. It's everybody, wherever you've come from, is going to get sent to Rwanda.
I was just going to mention, because this reminded me, this sort of, if it's an inappropriate thing by Sunak, and by the way, he's since said that he doesn't bet, so I don't know if that helps us or not. There was a moment when, you remember this, Suella Braverman was asked at the Tory conference, what's happening with Rwanda, and she said, it's my dream and obsession to see the asylum seekers flying to Rwanda, and she said she jumped for joy. You thought that was weird?
She's a very strange lady. Look, I've met her before. She's very polite, but she just says
So that's okay then?
No, it's not. She just says the most bonkers things. And I have to say, I was at that conference when she said that, and I just thought, why would you say that? Wouldn't you say that it's your dream? Maybe your dream for people not to cross the channel in the first place.
Yeah, she was.
Isn't that the
in
better
her
dream?
own comfort zone, and she I don't know. But this to me
it dehumanises the whole debate, and I think that's a real problem.
Well, then the handshake we can see there does the same. You think?
I think so too. I do feel a bit sorry for Sunak. I can see that
What was he supposed to do in that situation?
He should have said, Abby. He should have said, Piers, I really don't think that's very appropriate. And also, perhaps he should have thought, I am a multi-millionaire, and I don't want to hammer Sunak too much.
£1,000,
but he can just drop. Both men are multi-millionaires.
Why do we have this hatred for wealth in this country?
Let me finish. £1,000. We're in a cost of living crisis. £1,000 is like a dream to many people, and these two men just treating it as like a joke in the pub.
It's going to a refugee charity, Emily. It's going to a refugee charity.
It's not the point. This money will never go to a refugee charity.
He's out and about today, Sunak, and he says that the whole bet thing took him by surprise. And of course, one thing that's happened is that because we're all talking about the king, we're not talking about the bet.
This would be front page if it hadn't.
I was going to say he might have been in a spot of bother over it if the news wasn't elsewhere. Paul is in Leicester. Hi, Paul.
Hello.
So was this crass, silly, awful, or actually just a politician behaving like a politician will?
Piers Morgan is a very skilled interviewer, and I agree with Emily. And he had Rishi Sunak against the ropes. He was on a hiding to nothing. If he'd not taken the bet, he'd have been accused of being fit, being not prepared to put his money where his mouth is. But because he shook hands with him, it was Piers that laid the bet. All that Rishi Sunak did was shake his hand. He didn't accept the bet. He didn't verbalise that because he'd been caught out. Yeah. But he was on a hiding to nothing. And
so, okay, he had to take the hand, right?
I don't think he could have done anything else.
Yeah, let's just see this. We're just showing it now. So he says, look, I'll bet you any money you like, or £1,000. There's not going to be anyone. And he holds his hand, and then Sunak, that's what politicians do, isn't it, Albi? They see a hand, they grab it.
Oh, well, absolutely. Look, I think this caller is obviously right, because he's basically said exactly the same thing that I've said. The Prime Minister said, I want to get the people on the planes. He took Piers' hand, shook it. Piers asked the question again, and he said, I want to get the people on the planes. Not, I accept your bet, which is what you're saying, he said, Emily.
And Paul,
fake news.
Paul, I just want to say you're absolutely right. It's the Piers show. It's always about Piers, isn't it?
Well, I'm not throwing shade on Piers here. He does a good show. And, we're, from now on, I've got to remember to always put my hand out to interviewees to try... What about this, Alexis? This is the new thing, right?
It is. I do feel for Rishi Sunak a little bit, because what do? He'd be damned if he hadn't shaken his hand.
He just says, Piers, I'm not betting.
It's inappropriate.
It's inappropriate. Don't say,
He could, but then the headline would be Rishi Sunak refuses to put his money behind his Rwanda policy.
Exactly.
He was cornered. He's rowing back on it today, though, a little bit when he's out and about.
He's making some excuses. He's also, we said earlier, he's got this thing where he doesn't eat on Mondays. And people have noted that there's some strange things happen to him on Mondays.
On Mondays.
Someone's put together all the things. Appointing David Cameron was one of them, actually.